Joe Zikas from YoChicago.com. I'm sitting in the office of Dennis Dooley at Prudential Rubloff.
I think there's three basic things the public needs to do to protect themselves from the unscrupulous rental agencies, and some of them are very, very basic stuff. The first one I can think of is ask to see the rental agent's license. They are required to carry a pocket card with them. It's just that easy, and if they give you any song and dance about not having the pocket card with you, run the other direction. There's no doubt about it. Now, many of the rental agencies use the current state system of a probationary 120-day permit while they go through the process of getting the appropriate classroom hours and taking the test necessary to get the leasing license. I have to tell you something. They even the agents, and we use that system here as well, but they're not allowed to stay after the 120 days if they did not acquire the leasing license. We think that this is a good business to be in, but we also think it's a good business to be in on a completely legal basis and a process where the consumer is free from doubt that they're getting appropriate representation and that they're being dealt with in a fair and square basis. I mean, that's maybe a very important issue from our point of view, because virtually all the renters, if you take a hard thought to it, every one of the renters is more or less a buyer we're putting in escrow for a future time. We want to have a long-term relationship with them. We're not going to have a long-term relationship with them if we don't treat them fairly and we don't deal with the letter of the law. There's just no doubt about it. So I think the very first thing that someone can do to protect themselves from the unscrupulous rental agents is very simple. Just simply ask to see their license. The second rule that I've come up with right at the moment is the consumers need to stop using Craigslist as a place to shop for rentals. Virtually without exception, the hordes of these unscrupulous rental agencies are hijacking the exclusive listings of larger companies. They're hijacking the inventory of the big management companies that are quite willing, that have been up to this point, quite willing to work with them. They are putting misinformation out there. In our case, they've been hijacking our listings and using copyrighted photos to attract prospects, but then offering their ads right next to ours, and they undercut our rent on the very same unit that they've hijacked. We make sure that they understand that they're actively involved in tortious interference at the very, very least, and at the most, the fraudulent advertising is felonious. There's just no question about it. So I would strongly suggest to any potential renter, get off of Craigslist. All the inventory is not there anyway. And most of it is there with misinformation, we find, and we're just unfortunate. And by the way, we post our listings to Craigslist as well. But we're finding increasingly it's a less important situation. Craigslist has no interest in cleaning up its act at this stage. But the public needs to understand that the information that they're seeking about valid rentals being available is not there. Craigslist is not an information service, it's advertising. And it's the primary vehicle by which these rental agencies meet new clientele. And if you're meeting someone over from Craigslist, it better be a company that you recognize. And that's the other thing, is if you are calling on an ad for a company that you don't recognize, don't call. Don't call. There's so many of these places. This will save you from the ones that have popped up in the last 6 to 8 months. Might not save you from the ones that have been around for a while and have been involved in unscrupulous dealings. But there's just no question, if you don't recognize the name of the company, you might want to think twice about contacting them.
I have a simpler rule that tenants can follow when looking at Craigslist ads. If there's not an exact address in the ad, don't respond to it.
There you are. There you are. If there's not an exact ad in them, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's a fraudulent ad. There's just no doubt about it. Now, the final thing that I would tell you is that there also seems to be an increasing practice of coercing a tenant because of the lack of rental inventory. It's a seller's market out there for landlords. There's just no doubt about it. And rentals are being snapped up very quickly. But there is no reason to give your rental agent any of your deposit up front. If they ask you for money up front, get up and leave and go the other direction. This is not going to go well for you. And you stand a very, very good chance that that will be the last you'll see of their money, because they've now received their commission already. and they didn't have to do any of the work. They didn't have to find you a nice place. You know, it's really tragic what's happening out there, but the public has in part, you know, is in part to blame because they now use many of these vehicles that have really driven the business and the increase in these businesses. Craigslist is one of them. From anyone's perspective, you know, and again, because I work for a very well-known company is not why you ought to ask, you know, if you don't recognize the company, don't call them. But you know what, it does make a difference when you're calling a company whose substance you're already aware of at some point in time. We're proud to be in the rental business today. We want the long-term relationship that will come with treating a tenant fairly and dealing with them on a square basis. In the final analysis, with that as the overriding attitude about how we do business, we don't think that, we think we're putting ourselves in a position that makes great sense at this stage, and that is really, we're going at the consumer in the right attitude, and we think we'll be profiting from it.
Theoretically, Dennis, we have a law enforcement system in Illinois. We have licensing authorities, we have state's attorneys, we have attorneys and attorney general. Where's the legal system that's supposed to protect the consumer?
Well, I can't comment on where the legal system is. There in Springfield, I know that IDFPR up until last year had 2 investigators investigating all the activity of every single real estate licensee in the state of Illinois. Back when, early in the 70s, they had 17, okay?
I think they only have 4 now, don't they?
Well, I think they only have 4 now. That system is wildly overtaxed. There's just no question about it. So from anyone's perspective, I know the good guys are out there somewhere, but it's just going to take them an awful long time to get to folks like these unscrupulous rental agencies. And the tough part about it is that there's going to be a lot of the consumers that are taken to the cleaners before they actually get squared away and taken out of the market.